Killeen.
What's going on, Woodway, Texas? Welcome to episode 79 of season 5 of Talking Throws Podcast, Texas Style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach
And we are coaches with the track club, The Throwing Factory. You can check out our bios on the throwingfactory.com website. We've just updated that website, got new pictures, updated our alumni, our All-American, and our state qualifiers. So go check out those pictures. We're also adding some changes as far as links to get into other sites as well, and some promo materials on the site. So that site again is thethrowingfactory.com. Remind everybody that Janelle is our youth coach. She's looking to do youth lessons, getting everybody ready for the indoor season for our youth. So if you're looking, you have an 8-9-year-old for tow javelin, even disc, or 11-12-year-old discus thrower, reach out to her. Her contact information is on the site. I'm looking to add to our club. If you want to do a tryout or have interest in private lessons, reach out to me, throwingfactory.com website. And then also remind everybody about Coach Kai, west at the Throwing Factory, Coach Jarvis, east at the Throwing Factory, and then Coach Morgan Knight. He's running Knight Power and Performance out of Abilene, Texas. All three are doing lessons, whether it's hammer, javelin, shot, or disc, glide, shot put, whatever you need. We have the coaches that can help you out. Again, their contact information is on the site, so go to thethrowingfactory.com. Guys, for season 5, our sponsors have been a big help to us. It's Track and Field Coaches Association. That website is ttfca.org. For anything you want to know in track and field in the state of Texas, Stuart Cantor is a guy. He's already preparing a speaker list for 2023 winter talk. Also, fourthrows.com, calling implements price right. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Porta-Circle, making throwing more accessible. Go to Porta-Circle, use the code TalkingThrows10. We are getting into the cooler seasons. Hopefully by October, November, December, we will have some cooler weather. January. There'll be a point where you have to go indoor and you can't go outdoor. Well, what better tool to use than a Porta-Circle? And you can go to porta-circle.com to purchase one. Be sure to use the code TalkingThrows10. Ready Up Athletic Development. Zach Phillips' cell phone is 512-507-8347. His website is readyupad.com. You can follow Zach on Instagram and Facebook and just find Ready Up. Anything you need, personal training, group lesson, team lessons, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, anything weightlifting related, Zach Phillips is the guy in the greater Austin area. And then finally, Fiber Sports Discus. Welcome to a new way to get the distance. You can go to fibersportsdiscus.com, and it's more about the rim weight. Check them out. And also remind you that Janelle did a really good episode. What was that, 77? 76?
With Bruce.
Yeah. 76, episode 76, and you can find everything you need to know about the Fiber Sports Discus and how it came about. And then also to remind everybody about liftingdfw.com. We are finalizing the upload of the commercial that we just edited and getting out. So today's guest won a 5A state championship in the shot and the disc in 2013 while she was attending Killeen Shoemaker High School. She had a high school PR of 46.1.5 in the shot put, and in the discus 170 feet. Out of high school, she decided to attend Baylor University just up the road in Waco. When she left Baylor, she was the school record holder in the outdoor shot put with a mark of 56.11, and also a 4-time All-Big 12 competitor. And then she left all-time with a PR of basically 57 3/4 in the shot put, and she left with an all-time PR of 187.6, and she's currently teaching and coaching, I believe, in the Killeen ISD area, back where she grew up. Please welcome to episode 79 Cion HIcks. Like yourself, I'm real excited to hear what you have to say. You're actually our first Baylor Bear on, so there you go. So
That's awesome.
You're batting lead off for Waco, Texas. So
there we go.
Well, we're so excited to have you on. I actually saw you throw in high school. I knew he was going to roll his eyes at that. So you competed against my daughter. So I saw you throw your senior year of high school. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. When did you first pick up a shot put or discus?
So I actually first picked up a shot put and discus when I was in the 7th grade. I thought I was going to be essentially a track and field athlete, but more so on the track side, because I actually ran the 100, the 200, and I was a long jumper. And I had a coach. I went to Copper's Cove at the time, and I had a coach in junior high. And she looked at me jumping, and she said, "Absolutely not. Get over here. You're gonna learn to throw shot put." And I was like, "Shot put, discus, what is this?" And she showed me, the rotation. She showed me what it looked like to glide. And I had really good footwork because I was a basketball player. I played post, and that's what I was actually planning to go to college for. And I got in there and I just threw it too far to go back to long jump or to go back on the track. They're like, "Yeah, you can go play around and do that, but the big thing is you're going to be throwing shot put and discus." And so I started a little bit later than a lot of throwers that you kind of see traditionally, but it was meant to be. The Lord definitely, put my lines in pleasant places. So ever since then, it just took off and I couldn't run away from it for sure.
Wow. What was the coach's name? Do you remember?
Absolutely. Her name was Coach Tracy. She actually passed a few years ago, which was really sad, but she really poured into so many young women's lives at that time. And I mean, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for her, I would not have been throwing, because I just knew I was a runner. I knew I was a basketball player. I wanted to be flashy. I wanted to be the one out in front of everybody, going across the line like, yeah. But I actually was able to do that in a different way. It was just in the ring.
So being a basketball player in the 7th grade, can we just get an idea of how tall you were back then?
So I was as tall as I was right now. So I was pretty huge. I was about 5'8", and I thought I was going to get taller. The doctors were like, "Oh, you're going to be 6'3", and I was like, "Oh, this is a wrap. I'm definitely going to be playing basketball." And when I got to high school, I didn't grow any taller. I ended up, playing AAU basketball, and they said, "Yeah, if you're wanting to play collegiate basketball, you have to learn to be, perimeter shooter. You're gonna have to learn to play the 3, learn to play the 2." And so I actually started doing that a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get into it later, kind of how my story went along, but track and field just kind of took over, and basketball, it was just an afterthought after that.
Gotcha.
So do you remember how far you threw the shot put that first time you picked it up?
Oh, that's a very good question.
How far it went?
So what I can tell you is this. I know I was in the 30s, and I remember I finished my 8th grade year actually throwing about, I think the big number was 40, and everybody was just like, "Oh my gosh, you threw 40 feet." And it was like my last meet. And it was pretty cool because in middle school, how we do all the sports, especially if you're super athletic, they're like, they throw you in everything. And so I was actually a really great power lifter at the time. And I had the record of, deadlifting. I believe it was like 275 or close to 3. So yeah, it all kind of fell right into place in middle school for sure.
Wow. So from a family picture, were your mom and dad's college athletes? What was their influence in your athletic career? In that 7th, 8th grade period of time, what was their background?
So my mom always said she was an athlete of the mind. She was not, an actual athlete. She always said I was the intelligent one. I was the one that went to school, full academic, scholarship, and she's extremely intelligent. My father, he went on academics as well. He wasn't athletic in the sense of college, but he was in high school. And so it was just, I guess you say perfect breeding. I have 3 siblings. We all were super athletic. It just so happened that my mom and dad weren't necessarily, athletic like that. But they really pushed us and put us and made so many sacrifices, in terms of AAU, in terms of club sports, in terms of, training, them taking time out to train us, different things like that. If it was something that, was needed to be learned by my parents in order to teach us, they were down for it 100%. I mean, they were the parents that were bringing all the snacks, and we were in the van. We had the sandwiches put together in between games, basketball games, track meets. Like, that's the type of parents they were. And it was really neat to kind of see. I was more so of the one that was kind of, I was like on the frontier of showing my brother and sister what it looks like to be kind of like a top athlete. And they all just picked up their thing. And next thing you know, they all were, great athletes in high school, had opportunities to go, to college as well. My brother, he went to Tarleton and threw for a little bit on a scholarship. My brother, he played football and he threw as well in high school, but he ended up going to Prairie View A&M, a part of the marching band, which is a sport all within itself. And then, my sister currently, she's at West Point, and she's actually throwing there now. Yeah. So she's looking to break everything that I've done, which is always the goal. Always the goal.
So, and she just graduated this year, right? Sheriff,
yes, sir. So she graduated 2020, and then she had a 5th year, kind of like that redshirt year at prep. And so she's technically a sophomore at West Point.
Okay.
Wow.
So she's up there with Coach Hertzberg then. Coach Hertzberg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remembered him. I was like, oh yeah, I remember him when I was throwing, and he remembered me.
Good
He always tells us,
on her then. Okay. I remember.
Yes, absolutely.
I just put 2 and 2 together. I didn't know she was your sister.
Yeah, she was just telling me today how people will send pictures of me or screenshots of some of my articles, and I'd be like, do you know her? And she'll play around like, I have no idea who she is. No clue. And I'm like, that's very little sisterish of you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's cool. Well, that's awesome. So your parents were very academic. You picked up the shot. You threw over 40 feet in junior high. You get into high school your freshman year. What was that adjustment like to the 4K shot put, because it went up? And talk to us a little bit. Were you a glider? Were you kind of learning rotational? What kind of technique did you have starting off?
That's a great question. So when I went into high school, yes, it got a little bit heavier. However, I was a pretty strong kid, and I was very strong-minded, if you will. I was like, if I was throwing 40 in junior high, I'm going to be throwing 40 in high school. Like, I don't know, I don't know how we're going to make it work, but we're going to make it work. And so I was actually a glider traditionally starting off. And then I got my eyes on the rotation, and I was a discus girl, if you will. Like, discus was the event that came more naturally. Shot put I had to work a lot harder at. And so during my time at Shoemaker, I always went back and forth from glide to rotation. To be honest, it was whatever was going to go further that meet or that week. It was like, okay, is glide looking better? Okay, that's what we're going to do with the meet. Okay, how's the rotation looking? Oh, you're actually getting a nice hit behind it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and rotate this week. And it's really funny kind of how that transitioned and looked going into college, because my coach that recruited me, he was looking at me as a glider. And the young lady that he coached prior to, she did really well, Skylar White at Baylor, and she was a glider. I mean, just think of how Michelle Carter is built. That's exactly how Skylar was built. And so he was looking at me as a glider, but I went back and forth in high school, so much to the fact that I believe it was my senior year in high school, I was rotating most of the year. And then at the end of the year, for some reason, my steps were off of my rotation. I wasn't being able to kind of balance it to where in the middle I was able to hit the way I needed to. And I actually remember transitioning to gliding through the area meet at the time, regional meet, to the state meet. And so I finished off gliding that year.
Oh, so was that the flexibility of your throws coach going into your high school that said, okay, I trusted you know what you're doing between both? Or was that kind of, did you have a personal coach as well? Or was that mom and dad kind of influencing all the changing?
So let's see, starting off my freshman to sophomore year, I was actually still really focused on basketball. And it plays a point to the point of I didn't have any personal track and field coach. I mean, I had the coach that I had in high school. First, it was Alexia Sharp, and then Coach Shaw Moore, who I'm actually coaching under this year at Shoemaker High School. She was my coach. And so I'm able to work with her this year. She was the one where she was like, hey, I trust your big dog. That's what she calls me. He calls me big dog. She's like, whatever works, it works. And my footwork was so tight. And I was always so strong. Whichever way it went, I mean, it just kind of worked out. You know, it was just really all about, okay, what's looking better this week? So she trusted my expertise in it. She had a lot of knowledge when it came to the throws. And then when I moved to my junior year, I had a really big throw at Baylor during, I think it was my regional meet in discus. And that's when I became number 2 in the nation behind Shelby Bond. And yeah, it was a wrap for basketball after that. My parents were like, all right, so that was a nice time. Now we're going to go ahead and invest our money in AAU track and field. And I remember that was the most miserable time of my life because I went from in summertime in the gym to being outside in Texas in the heat, San Antonio, Houston. It's humid, it's hot. And I was sitting here thinking like, is it really worth it? I knew I threw far, but is it really worth it, guys? We can get back in the gym. Come on, let's go back in the gym.
The 170, right?
Yes, sir. That's when I threw 170 at Baylor, which was crazy all within itself. That's when the doors just opened up for me. I was like, maybe this. I actually took it seriously that year moving forward.
Well, even you threw 133 your sophomore year. I'm looking at your numbers. You know,
Yes,
when you're
sir.
under 40 feet as a sophomore, you know, at 39.2, that's, you know, to not have everything listed, that's pretty impressive, you know,
Yes, sir.
to hit those numbers at that age, for sure. For sure.
Yes, and I had no clue because again, I did no research in track and field. Like,
Okay.
I mean, and especially in throws. Like, I had no idea who the big throwers were. I had no idea in terms of when it got down to the very specifics, the technicalities of glide, of the rotation, of, you know, holding the position, where it was supposed to be, like all these things. I learned from my middle school coach, and then in high school I learned from what she told me, but I wasn't the type to go above and beyond at that time in track and field because it was just something I was doing to stay in shape to get to the basketball season. You know, when it came to basketball, I knew everything. I was at WNBA games. I was at, you know, Division I camps. I was all over the place. Track and field, it was just like, oh, it's track and field season. Okay, let's pick it up and let's do it. So hindsight, I'm looking at my numbers and I'm like, wow, you're a little stud. You didn't even know it. Like, you had no clue. And I mean, I just really call that a blessing. I mean, because I was doing what I knew I needed to do. However, my focus was elsewhere, not knowing that at the end of the day, I was all going to be back into track and field, especially in shot put and discus.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you start? So you threw the 170 going into your junior year. When did you start getting interest from colleges then? You know, did that carry over into your summer track as well? How did that summer track go?
So when I was a sophomore, moving into my junior year, I believe, I don't know if it was my sophomore year or it could have been the beginning of my junior year. I think I threw like 150 or something like that. And then in my shot put, I was hanging around the 40s. And I remember finally thinking like, maybe you can go to college for this. And so I kind of started looking up numbers and I started realizing, oh, there are people in college that are not throwing as far as this.
Yeah.
And so what I did, which I love to share with others, is I put together an email, essentially a recruiting email, where I listed all of my academic achievements, what I was looking forward to do, you know, moving to my junior and senior year. And then I also listed everything that I had done athletically so far. And I essentially changed the name saying, hello, Coach so-and-so. And then I put maybe some specifics about, you know, about their program and why I was interested. And I mean, guys, I sent out about 20 emails at least to different Division I colleges. I remember sending it to Prairie View, Oklahoma State, just to kind of name a few. And I just kind of got my name out there because what I recognized is if you're a collegiate coach, yes, you're trying to recruit, but that's not your main job. Your main job is also making sure the athletes on your side that you're coaching with are doing what they need to do. They're in championship season at the same time that we're rocking and rolling. So I was like, let me just send them a little email. And you guys would be so surprised how many responses that I got back. I got back questionnaires. I got back, hey, kid, if you can get your numbers to this, we're all on you. I got back, wow, we didn't even know you'd be ever interested in us. This is good to hear. I mean, I built so many relationships just by me putting my name out there. And kids, a lot of times they're like, why doesn't this coach? Well, this coach is going to see me no, go advertise yourself to them. And then them as a coach, they're like, wow, they took the time to reach out, put together an email on top of that. to advertise themselves. And when it's well-rounded on the academic side and the athletic side, I mean, you just become a polished pearl that they're looking forward to. You know, they have that name without even having to look for themselves. So you become more of an interest.
Was the email something that you just kind of created on your own? Was it something your parents kind of say, hey, we need to create this and, you know, do this? Or was it a teacher that said, do this, or do something you just thought of?
So I was actually watching a documentary on Diana Taurasi, because remember, I was a big WNBA fan, still am. And I remember Diana Taurasi was sitting down and she was sitting on her couch and she had like at least 40 letters laid out around her. And she was just, you know, looking at them. She was talking about all the offers that she had. And I was sitting there and I was talking to my dad and I was like, Dad, I want to take a picture just like that. I want to take a picture like that. And he was like, okay, so how are we going to do that? I was like, I don't know, but I need these colleges to recognize who I am, because I need emails like that. I want to have the shoe boxes full of emails, full of mail from colleges showing their interest. And so he and I brainstormed. My mom helped me out. She's now a school counselor. He's been teaching for 20 plus years. She's been teaching for 10 plus years. And so we decided to put together that full student athlete email, if you will. And my mom helped me, you know, word it correctly. She's an English major. My dad helped me as well with being a journalism major. And I remember I put together the blueprint email. And then after that, I just started looking up schools and I copied and pasted Miami, put that coach. Hey, how you doing? I would love to be in Florida, blah, 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 blah. Okay, Oklahoma. Hey, look at this is Cion HIcks. I love Oklahoma. Norman, like, what do I love about Oklahoma? But hey, that's what I was saying, especially with me being a Baylor Bear now. I don't love nothing about Oklahoma. But at that time, again, it was just about getting my name out there and seeing kind of what were the possibilities. And when I saw Diana Taurasi doing it on TV, I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm trying to do the same thing. Even if it's not in, you know, basketball, I'm trying to be a Division I blue chip athlete. And I'm again, the feedback from coaches was just amazing. And then leading into my junior year after throwing the 170, it went crazy. I mean, at the time where I was allowed to receive calls from coaches, I remember I had my phone on loud and I had a specific ringtone. Like it was just like the old school iPhone ringtone, that one. And I remember it was about 10 o'clock that day where I was allowed to receive calls. And I got my first call from Jeff Chicoin, who is actually at Baylor right now. And he was at USC at the time. And he called me and told me that he was interested in me. And I remember I was on the phone like, I got my first call, like running around the house, like parents, I'm having it on speakerphone. I'm like, listen. And I mean, from then on, it's really just a blur, just the amount of calls that I got in, the amount of calls that I got from other schools, and it was just amazing. So that email, though, I'm telling you, that was what set it off for me for sure.
I'm glad you said that, because I want to ask your opinion on this, because I know you graduated in 2013. So yes, we had social media, but it wasn't as big of a deal. So you did an email. So to athletes now, you can do Instagram and Twitter, and they can message coaches through that. Do you still think they should do like the more formal email to that coach, or just reach out through a Twitter or social media way? That
is a great question. And let me tell you, I'm telling you that email
on any show.
Hey, here's what I'll say on that. Here's what I'll say on that. That's a great question though, because we are so inundated with social media, and that's the main thing that we're doing. And it's like, that's the only thing that we're focused on. But you're absolutely right. It's like, here's how I look at it. I look at it as a difference between a text and a call, right? When you text somebody, it might get caught up. I mean, I have 500 unread text messages. That's just me. I mean, if it's important, I look at it. If it's not, it just is what it is. But when you get a call, that's something different. You know, you get that notification up and it's one missed call and you have one voicemail. And so when I'm looking at social media, I see that more as texting. Everybody has access to that. And everybody thinks that's the way to go. And with our generation now, we're so self-absorbed in social media. We think that's the only way to get popping or get noticed. But when you are in a business, and that's what we're moving to, especially when you're going to collegiate sports or trying to be a collegiate athlete, sending that email puts you above the rest, because they're like, wait a minute, They took their time out to craft an email, and it doesn't read like a text message, and it's not along with all the other DMs that I'm getting from all these other people that think they're that good. And then on top of that, they listed their academics first, then their athletics, and then showed me why they're interested in my program specifically. I mean, you got to tickle their ear. Tell them that, hey, I saw how you coached up this young lady from throwing 40 in high school to throwing 52 in college. I want to know how you did that. They're puffing up their chest reading that email, and they're going back like, okay, this is something different. Because if you think about it, business-wise, that's where they get all their serious inquiries, if you will, through email. And so I think I always tell kids that even at the school that I'm at now, we have a lot of young ladies that are just really good at volleyball. And so I was able to help a young lady put together a volleyball email to a couple of HBCUs that she was interested in. And I'm telling you, that coach probably getting maybe 3 or 4 emails, but the rest are all social media. So it does put you a bar ahead for sure.
And I think once you do that initial email, number one, you've proven you work with high school kids that they can write an email, like you said, and complete.
Yes.
So that shows, and they don't use you are for your and all that. But then then that coach is probably going to search you on social media. Well, then from there, you can do the, the messages and all that, but at least they have
right.
that. Well, we need to start telling kids.
Yeah,
that's true.
Even that a kid or youth even has an email address.
True.
An appropriate one at that. An appropriate one at that. That's true.
Yeah,
And they
sure.
type like this and not like this.
Absolutely.
I love that. That's great.
So from there, you get a lot of interest in the feedback on the emails and stuff. You're going into your senior year. Have you kind of developed your 5 visits? Were there 5 schools that really kind of stood out to you that said, okay, these are going to be my official visits? Or was that something you waited until your senior year?
I believe I definitely waited until my senior year to pick out the 5, just because there were so many different schools from all over the country that I hadn't heard of before. I didn't even know if they had throwers. I knew nothing about their program. So remember, I'm behind the 8 ball because I'm still, basketball minded. So I'm having to shift my ideology and trying to figure out, okay, what is track and field? Who are people that are important? Oh, Michelle Carter. Okay, cool. It's the first time I'm ever hearing of her, even though everybody knows who she is. Little things like that, for sure. So it took me until my senior year to figure out who my top 5 were, which was still very tough.
Who were they?
I got you. I didn't want to give. Yeah, I got you. So my top 5, it was TCU, it was Texas, Alabama, Baylor, and then Arizona State.
Oh, wow.
Yes. South, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. It was South mostly. I thought I was going to go far away for college. I really, really thought I was. But the more I thought about it, I was more of a homebody. I mean, I'm just more comfortable being around my family, being around a support system, being around friends. And so UCF, it was beautiful. Florida is beautiful. Miami, like all these other places. I'm like, that sounds really, really great. But I don't know. I think I'm going to stay down where I'm kind of familiar.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, you're going into your senior year, you played basketball.
Not anymore. Not by the time you're senior, right?
You played high school.
I continued. Yeah, I continued all the way through my 4 years.
All right.
He's not good.
No, you're good. It's all good.
Basketball.
She asked one good question, so she thinks she knows it all now. So how do you handle, these 5 schools I'm going to visit, I'm playing basketball, and I'm getting ready for my senior year of track and field. That's going to be my, sport of choice in the high school. I mean, in college, that had to be a tough senior year for somebody.
Yeah, it was actually. It was. I had to kind of learn how to navigate it because you're right. Like, I'm in the middle of my basketball season, and I am missing practices from taking visits.
Yeah.
I'm at tournaments getting calls from coaches, having to try to answer, maybe not answer, give it to my coach, let them know, hey, so-and-so is calling. Can you let them know that I am literally getting ready for a basketball game? Because I'm that type of athlete. I'm like, look, I don't want any distraction. I don't care who you are. And it got even more interesting when I narrowed it down and made my verbal commitment because, a lot of times, and this is, it's not a mark on anyone, but just because it's a verbal commitment, a lot of people don't necessarily stay with that verbal commitment, right? You may say, this is the school I'm going to. So after I made my choice verbally of where I was going, I had a lot of coaches calling me and trying to tell me, hey, why'd you choose that school? Hey, we can give you this, we can give you that, you know, kind of reneging on what they said before and giving me something bigger to try to see if and that was so tough because I'm pretty much a woman of my word. If I say this is what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing, you know, unless the Lord himself comes down and says, wrong answer, you know, and he couldn't say that because he was at Baylor himself. So that was the place I was supposed to be. Okay. And so it was really interesting. I mean, I had to forward calls to my dad, letting him know, hey, so-and-so is not happy that I chose Baylor. And we're about to go to the championship game of the tournament. I just don't have time to talk about this. You know, different things like that. And of course, they want the best of the best. So it's not a negative on them, but it was tough for me as a high school student, you know, telling them no, even though they showed me such a good time, you know, telling them no, knowing that their program was amazing. And I know if I went there, I'd probably benefit a lot, but it was all about personal preference and where I feel comfortable. And I remember when I took my visit to Baylor, which I never thought I'd go there. I went on so many visits to Baylor, you know, in elementary school, middle school, because I was in high school. That was the college right up the street. So I'm thinking I ain't going to Baylor. But I went to Baylor understanding that I had the opportunity to be a student athlete there. And I felt such a peace, such a calm. I mean, the campus was beautiful. The coaches were so authentic. It didn't feel like they were selling me a car, a used car, you know, on top of that. The athletes were just so down to earth. And I mean, that just was the place. I couldn't take away my verbal offer. And it was kind of funny because the coach that coached me while I was at Baylor, the thrower before that was giving verbal commitments to like Texas Tech and then Baylor, kind of going back and forth a little bit. So he was nervous about me. He didn't really take my verbal commitment as nothing. He was waiting for me to sign the paper. He was like, yeah, you say you're coming, but I need you to I need you to give me the John Hancock. Yeah.
Who was the throws coach at Baylor at that time?
Yes, he was Danny Brabham. Coach Danny Brabham. Yes, that's my boy right there. I love Danny.
What was about Danny that kind of, you know, you picked the school, you said it was beautiful. What was it about Danny that kind of that sold it on you?
Oh yeah, I mean, so the cool thing about being recruited was if the coach really wanted you, they were at your door knocking. You know, so I had many home visits, and I remember Coach Brabham came in there and he wasn't a flashy guy. I remember he had on his national ring and I was looking at his hand, like, as he's talking, like, what's that? Like, I want one of those. Like, oh my. And I mean, he had this deep, just country Southern accent. He was super sweet, made my mom laugh, which is a plus. If you make moms laugh, that's a good thing, you know? And I remember my dad asked him such a crucial question. He said, so how did, and at the time the thrower there was Skylar White. He said, so how did you take Skylar White from throwing what she was throwing in high school to getting her to where she's at now? You know, multiple All-American, record holder, all those things. And he said, he thought about it. He looked at all of us and he said, well, it's the coaching Central, because that's my dad's name. And I just looked at him and I was like, oh, this man is confident. He said it was the coaching. He ain't say nothing else. My man didn't say anything. He said it's the coaching. And I mean, he said that. And I mean, from that point on, I just knew he was just such an authentic man. Like, you know, he wasn't trying to tell me. He told us the good, the bad, which at that time I didn't see any bad. It didn't feel like there was any really bad. He was honest about what I was going to get at Baylor. And when I got to Baylor, that's exactly what I got, and even more in a positive way. He just gave me a very homey feeling. I mean, and he took me in. Again, he was a little hesitant because he was like, you're saying this, but I need to see it. And I was like, Coach Brabham, I promise this is the school I'm going to. And I remember after basketball practice, let me see. I believe, it was after basketball practice. I remember my basketball coach at the time came to me and told me, hey, you got a call from Oklahoma. They really want you. The coach is asking for you, this, that, and the third. And at this point in time, I believe I'd already made my 5 visits, and I still hadn't made a decision. And for some reason, when she told me that, the Lord kind of was like, you know where you need to go. And I was like, what? But this is Oklahoma. Let me see what Oklahoma's talking about. Let's see. I knew a couple girls that were going to be at Oklahoma, really good throwers. And I was like, maybe I should go there. And he was like, nope, you know where you're supposed to be. And I remember I looked at that coach and I said, don't worry about that call. Don't return that call. I know where I'm going to school. And that moment, I made a call to Danny Bradman. I told him I'm verbally committing to Baylor. And he was like, okay, Cion. All right, well, that sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I remember I told my parents. I remember I released it on Twitter. And I mean, I never, turned my back since. I mean, Baylor all the way. Green and gold is what I believe.
Wow. So you wind up signing in February before your graduation, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how was it your senior year, big dog in the state, getting ready for your final hurrah of track and field after signing with Baylor?
After actually putting my name on a piece of paper and knowing that all the hard work, even in basketball, I think, definitely played a part to that moment. I felt like the biggest weight was lifted off my shoulders,
Really?
And I also was like, oh, I'm going to defend my name. Like, I'm number one in the state right now. So I'm not losing to anybody, And it was just, I had so much fun throwing that year. I mean, I was, of course, friendly to throwers before, and that's what my MO was. Everybody knew, like, she's so sweet. She's so nice. Like, I'll talk to you. We're cool. I am not the type to be sitting with the towel over my head, like, I'm getting ready. No, I'm sitting here. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Whatever. But then when I got in the ring, oh yeah, it's game over. When I got in the ring, it was about, being dominant. I remember my dad taught me that. He was like, hey, you can be cool on the outside, be Cion, but when you get inside of the ring, that's when you make a statement. Warm-ups is when you make a statement. And so I never was that type of athlete that, when I did warm up, or even like, again, my senior year, if I threw a really far throw, some athletes are like, I threw my throw, I threw the big throw. No, you didn't. If it's in you, it's in you. That was just a statement for everybody else. Get in there and compete, So that's kind of, it was fun. It was amazing my senior year.
Well, but also Ty, during your time of being a high school senior, that there was a lot of big time throwers. You had Haley Teal, who's been on the show. She's went 52 feet. Y'all were in the same class. And then also too, you had a girl that's somewhat popular now in the world of throwing, in Valerie Allman.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And the cool thing about these young ladies is that, again, I knew nothing about throwers. I knew nothing about who was in, who was that. But my junior year, going into my senior year, that summer, I started competing, what was it? USATF. And so that's when I started learning, oh my goodness, there's so many girls out here doing this thing, like legitimately. I actually met Valerie Allman's mother, and me and Valerie, we became really cool. Anytime we saw each other at meets, we always wished each other well. And then just seeing how we both progressed through college was super neat. Us competing against each other. Anytime we saw each other, we always spoke. Haley Teal was the same way. It was just kind of cool because the parents knew who each of us were. So in the stands, the parents would kind of be talking and, mingling of the sorts. And I mean, I remember there was a thrower, Shemaya Turner. She was big, in this area, went to Oklahoma for a while as well. Her parents and my parents got along pretty well. So it was really neat to kind of turn the page from going from basketball, knowing who was the it girls, and then going to throwing and realizing, oh, they're it girls in this too. Oh, they get to shine just as much as, as the basketball players, as the 100-meter runners, So it was pretty cool. And it was awesome to see where everybody chose to go to college. That was a cool thing. In the 5 visits, the coaches love to brag if they say, I believe Valerie Allman, she did a visit, I believe, to Arizona State, maybe a couple weeks before I did. And so the coach was bragging like, hey, if we get Valerie here and you here, it's a wrap. And so it was so cool to kind of have those type of conversations. I mean, social media wasn't as big as it is now, but if it was in that time, I'm sure we all would have been messaging each other and, giving kudos to each other in the way that kids do now. But it was really word of mouth that kind of got things circulated like that back in the day.
Awesome. So talk to us, we're going to put a cap on your high school career. Talk to us about winning that state championship in shot and disc.
Oh boy. Now that was amazing right there. I mean, let me tell you, I tried to win it my junior year, okay? But Shelby Vaughn, that was a contender. That was a competitor right there. You know, I always go into it with the mindset to win, but that young lady was beyond talented. I would be looking at her in the ring, like trying to figure out what can I pick up from her, you know, different thing. Look, I'm a savage, so I'm trying to take it all right here, right now.
Yeah.
But going into it my senior year, I was like, okay, this is the year. This is the year. And I remember I had a group of maybe 5 or 6 students that came up to see me throw from Shoemaker. They all did a little carpool, which was amazing. I remember where my parents were. I remember which ring we were in. And I was leading going into the finals in shot put. And then I remember a young lady, I can't remember which high school, but I remember her name, Lauren Caldwell. She ended up throwing for Texas. She ended up throwing a big throw. I mean, a big throw. I mean, it was, I can't remember if it was a 45-footer or 46-footer, but it was something I didn't get footer yet, okay? And so she ended up besting me before my last throw. And I remember I was sitting there like, okay, now wait a minute. I did not get second last year to get second this year. And I remember picking up a shot put Coach Shark gave me. It was a white shot put. We called it the white shark. And I hadn't thrown with them. And I was like, this is the time. I'm going to throw with this white shark. We're going to see what happens. And I remember looking in the stands and seeing my, the students that came. I remember doing a little Shoemaker chant that we have in high school. And I remember doing it like in my heart. And I remember I prayed. I said, Lord, just please let me win this. If you let me win this, you got me. Anything you want, I'll do it. Like I'm sitting there trying to, come on, man. I need all the forces and the power with me. And I remember I got in the ring and I just gave it my all. And I ended up throwing that 47 feet and winning on a last throw. And I mean, even me and Lauren, we'll compete. Like, don't ever get that twisted. But we were great friends, you know, going through college, even after the fact. But we were competitors. In college, we were looking to beat each other, you know, if nothing else. So that was amazing. And then discus was, I don't remember it being as challenging, if you will, like, you know, me being behind. It was more so about just kind of me throwing my best. And I was always trying to get back to that 170, which I wasn't able to actually until college, which is crazy. But I ended up throwing, I think like 150 something, maybe close to 160 in the discus that year. So gold in both.
Hi, my name is Meredith McGee, and my father is the founder of Porta Circle. We created Porta Circle in order to make throwing more accessible so that you can truly train anywhere. Growing up in Rochester, weather was often a roadblock toward training, and having the Porta Circle was a lifesaver for both the indoor and outdoor season. Circles start at $149 and go to our website to learn more. www.porta-circle.com. Porta Circle, making training convenient.
Which was a blessing.
Shot put, was it glide or rotation?
That was glide. I finished off with glide. I remember finishing off with glide.
So maybe you rotated the first throw, glide the second, rotate the third.
Probably. Honestly, if they have the film, probably, because that's how hard-headed I was. I was like, if it's not going, I'm doing the other technique. Yeah. And I mean, the transition into college was actually really funny because, again, I told you, Danny Bradford picked me up and he said, you're going to be a glider. My last girl is a glider. Michelle Carter's a glider. She's doing great, so we're gliding. And I remember, y'all, I could not throw over 50 feet. Like, first of all, I could barely get to 50 feet. And then when I got to 50 feet, I couldn't get over 50 feet. And I remember I got done with my indoor year and I looked at, it might have been my sophomore year. I looked at Coach Brabham and I remember I was having an inner conversation like, you need to tell him you need to do rotation. You're just going to have to tell him. And I was sitting there going back and forth like, but do you want to? He's going to say no because he's real rough and he's very straight to the point. He'll shoot you straight. And so I went up to Coach Brabham. I said, Coach Brabham, can I please try to rotate in shot put? I said, I haven't been able to throw over 50. I'm not able, like that year, y'all, I was a losing loser my first year in college. I mean, I couldn't win for nothing. I couldn't get any points for all Big 12, nothing. And so I was like, this is not what I'm used to. Can I please rotate? Y'all, he said, that's fine. And I remember he was like, just think of it like discus and we're going to tighten up the steps. And so we're working on it. I went to TCU that year and I threw 52 feet. And I said, boom, I'm a rotator. Here we go. I'm gonna be rotating. And I rotated for the rest of my career. And I mean, it went from 52, as you saw, to 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. I mean, it felt like I couldn't be stopped. I was like, who knew? Who knew?
Oh wow! So your sophomore year, you placed 8th in the West prelims and for the NCAA. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I believe that was in Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
I remember I was very much so just shell shocked when I went to compete at that high level. I was like, look at all these people out here for track and field. Like, I'm not used to this. And then it was like the pressure of knowing what you've thrown before, knowing what you need to throw in order to get out. I mean, I realized that sophomore year that throwing was just as much mental or more mental than it was physical. I learned that. And I also had to humble myself and realize that I needed a sports psychologist. Like, I needed somebody to help me be able to focus in times of when the environment is distracting you, or in times of where the outcome of what other people are doing may affect you. Like, how can I draw the line and still be able to execute what, we've been practicing, execute what I know to do, and not worry about what somebody else knows to do. So Baylor is amazing. I mean, they had a sports psychologist just for track and field, and he would come every Thursday, I believe, and you would just sign up for an appointment. And I mean, he helped me out so much from visualization to grounding myself to just seeing what I was going to do before I did it. And I mean, it paid off. The more consistent I stuck with it, for sure.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Was it, how did that come about? Is that something that you just kind of seeked out and was like, Coach, I think I need to go talk with someone? Because I bring that up because, sometimes pride and our fear doesn't allow us to take that step, especially as a youth. Was that
Yes.
You just kind of spoke? Did you speak to your parents about it?
So honestly, what started getting me was I was starting to win, but I wasn't able to win consistently.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I know I'm eating right. I know I'm going to sleep. I know in practice I'm locked in. I do my reps that I need to do. I'm doing flexibility. Like, I'm in a Pilates yoga class at Baylor. Like, I'm doing all the little things. I'm like, come on now, what is missing? And I realized the last piece that was missing was the mental piece. And I had the thing that encouraged me was there were other athletes that were going to go see our psychologist that was on campus. And I was like, okay, if other people are going to do it, maybe I'm not, too far off from doing it. And I remember I talked to my parents about it because we're very religious people. So I'm sitting here like, God's my counselor. Like, I should be okay. God's my, therapist. However, God also places people on this earth to learn a lot more and to be able to communicate to you specifically for your sport, what you need to do, how you need to do it. And so it was definitely a slice of humble pie because I had to realize I can't do this thing alone. Like, I can maybe able to check all the boxes, but I need some outside sources that know more than I know. And this doctor, I believe his name was I know it's Dr. K. I think it's Corber, if I'm not mistaken. But he was Sonia Richards-Ross sports psychologist. So I was like, well, shoot, if you're helping her, and she's coming to our practices, and she befriended us and took us on and gave us a lot of advice. I'm like, if he's helping someone like that, measly old me can definitely take the help. I definitely can take the help for sure.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I was going to ask you, what was it? Did you feel pressure of being a Baylor track and field athlete? Because at that time, we're just on the track side. You had Jeremy Warner, Michael Johnson, and
yes,
all the great sprinters, and the legendary name Clyde Hart. And just like you said with Sonia, you'd have all these great accolades. And just on not the throwing side, there had to be some pressure.
Oh yes, absolutely. And where a lot of the pressure also came from was the 2013 class. I think across the board, we were just some heavy hitters coming out of high school. I mean, you had Trayvon Bromell that was coming from Florida. You had Annie Rhodes, who was a phenomenal pole vaulter. You had just all these kids from 2013 that we were studs in each of our events. We had high marks coming out. And so the expectation for coaches was like, hey, we're investing in you. So the expectation is you give back, you give us something back for our investment. Because that's what I like to tell people. I'm like, when you go to college, high school is a little bit different, but when you go to college, it is a business. They're putting money into you. So the expectation is that there is a return. You can't just be sitting on the bus, not going to produce. You can't eat their food, have their clothes, and not do what you need to do, because it is a business. Coaches lose their jobs if you're recruiting people that are not giving anything back to your program. Right. And so one thing that was really neat, I think we all as a 2013 class held each other accountable. And the class right above us, 2012, was actually a big class as well. And so they taught us what to expect in college, how to essentially understand that you're not a regular student going to school. You are a student athlete. There are things you can't do. Going out with everybody, that's just not an option. If that's your option, believe you will not be successful as you can be. There's just different things you're not going to be able to. You can't go to every, camp function that's happening on campus. You can't eat everything that everybody's eating. You can't just leave at a drop of a dime or have the holidays because we have practice. And so the support system was very important, and we held each other accountable for sure, even through that first year, because that first year, it was rough for a lot of us just because it's a different environment. You do feel the pressure of knowing like, hey, I was number one in my class. Like, I need to be number one now. But you don't realize that you're throwing against 21-year-olds that's been doing this thing for like 3 years. Meanwhile, you just got in here, you still got a little breast milk on your lip, like, okay, here I am. It's like, nah, baby girl, you got to come on with it. Like, it's a different beast. And so there was definitely pressure. But let me tell you, having Sonia Richards-Ross out there was a blessing in disguise, because you think she'd just be out there solely about her work, solely about herself, but she took the time out to watch me throw. She took the time out to mentor me, to tell me things that only an Olympian could ever tell you. You know what I mean? Her dad was out there as well, helping me out. I mean, he told me about how when you are taking off on the start, you got to move your feet quick, just like a Mustang cranks up an engine. It's fast, it's not slow. And I was like, wow, that I can actually take that to throwing. Actually, my first step needs to be okay. Like, I'm putting two and two together. So they're sewing into our lives, which helps out a lot for sure.
That's really, really cool that you had the mentorship of someone like that. Being a world-renowned quarter miler, and you're just your second year trying to be a thrower.
Yes. And you've seen this lady on TV winning gold medals, and she takes the time out to talk to you. I mean, it was just a blessing. And even just befriend you, just talk about whatever. That was really awesome, because it helped us learn, like, hey, relax. We're all people here. We're all people out here doing what we love. Don't overthink this thing.
Yeah. Getting back to your throwing, you make it to the NCAA in indoor your sophomore or junior year, I believe. Junior year.
Yes, sir. It was my yes, I think it was my junior year, because I don't think I made it first two.
Yeah, junior year and senior year indoor. And well, I bring that up for someone who maybe never did indoor track in your high school career. Your marks for your indoor are maybe a little bit better than your outdoor marks.
They actually were.
Okay. So research.
Yes, sir. You did. Absolutely.
Okay.
I have the indoor school record holder, not the outdoor.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm going with this. I want to know why. Yeah. I want to hear your answer. Do you know why?
So I've never answered this question before, and y'all are gonna get this is exclusive.
Okay.
It's because I was a basketball girl and I was happy to be back indoors. That's why.
Air conditioning. It wasn't.
I had AC. Yes, I had artificial lights. Yes, I was back where I was on the little wooden the ring. Like, I was back in my element. Honestly, that's the only reason I could see why. Because when I tell you, I second guessed why I stayed in Texas for track and field. I said, why did I do this to myself? And then Waco on top of that, like, humid, hot. Like, the allergies are terrible. Like, what am I doing? I mean, I went through withdrawal my freshman year. Like, you should have just stuck to basketball. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, like, I'm sitting there sad. But honestly, indoor, I'm not sure. I don't know if it was The implement, I'm really not sure. Maybe the beginning of the year, just getting everything started. Right. I wasn't so pooped at the end of the year. I mean, I started, when it went to outdoor season, I had better marks that didn't get marked because I was falling out the ring, to be completely honest. I mean, I don't know if I was over ambitious or what. I mean, I threw away a couple 58s, couple 59s, but that'll never, ever, be etched in stone just because of that. But indoor, I guess it was my environment, to be honest.
Did Danny ever try to get you to do hammer?
That's a great question. So we talked about it. And then I remember he told me, I think it was like my junior year, I practiced it was like a practice hammer. It was he comes up with crazy little implements and practice tools. And so I remember I practiced the steps in one practice, and I'm sitting there thinking like, ooh, I get to throw a hammer. But let me tell you, I know the truth. And, he's never necessarily told me, but it was written on the wall. I was too good in shot put and discus. He did not want to take any time away from practicing hammer, you know what I mean? Knowing that I was a for sure ticket in both of those events. It was just one of those things where it was like, look, my nickname was Silver. He called me Silver. He was like, look, Silver, we're going to focus on shot put and discus. If that would just have been more time, I would have been taken away from both. And I'm honestly, generally not upset about that at all, because I can learn how to teach, hammer if I want to go to the collegiate level. But I'm happy that I focused on those two because I was able to excel at the right time in both events.
Gotcha. And your senior year, you actually make it to outdoor nationals that year as well.
Yes, and let me tell you, I always folded at nationals. I don't know what it was. I mean, I really did, to be completely honest, because I don't want to tell the story of, oh, I did good. I did not do well, nationals. And one thing that I tell athletes is you have to keep the main thing. Whatever that is for you, you have to do that. And mine had to been keeping God number one in my life. And as I kind of went through college, you start smelling yourself a little bit. You start feeling like, hey, I got this, man. I've been doing this for a minute. And so my focus definitely started to go elsewhere. And I think for sure, when God blesses you with something, if you're not focusing on him, the reason that he gave it to you, all those good things, that your gift starts to dwindle a little bit. You're not able to produce in the times that you are able to produce. And I mean, there were times where I was primed. I mean, I was primed and ready to go at nationals, but I was never, ever really able to come out with that first team All-American. It was always that second team All-American. Yeah. But again, I always tell kids, whatever reason you go into the sport for, whatever it is, you got to focus on that and keep that the main thing, no matter what happens, no matter what success, comes before your feet. You always have to make sure you go back to your roots. Because if not, you get lost in the sauce. And then you're looking up like, how come I can't produce? How come I can't? Because those little things really do matter. And that's definitely my testimony for sure. But I'm blessed on the backside of it because now I get to, I had an epiphany the other day. People talk about their dream job. And I remember I was sitting in the car on the way back from work, and I was like, am I doing my dream job? And then I realized I said, I absolutely am, because I loved being an athlete. I loved producing. I loved just the whole idea of a student athlete. But there were coaches that helped me along the way, coaches that gave me, incentive, gave me motivation, gave me drive. And now I get to be that coach for athletes. I said, I'm in my dream job. Praise the Lord. Let's rock and roll, baby. We're taking somebody to state. We're taking somebody to a Division I school. Like, we're going to do the same thing, someone did for me. I'm doing it for these young ladies as well. So, I mean, it definitely all turns around, even again, like I said, because those national meets, my last 2 years, I definitely was like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Like, what is the point? But it's to take that story and take what you've done, how you've worked, and maybe things you could have done better and sow into somebody else's life. If you don't do that, all that loss is for no reason. Like, for sure.
You were at Baylor, was that the plan for you going to teaching and coaching?
Actually, yes. Fun story. Yes, NCAA, love them, but things can get a little tricky. When I went into college, I initially said I was going to be a child psychologist. So I started off as psychology is my major. I'm going hard in the paint. I made Dean's List my freshman year. I'm like, oh yeah, this is easy money. This is great. But as I started getting into specific psychology classes, I was like, yep, nope, this is not for me at all. I can't, this is not it. And I always said I was not going to be a teacher simply because my parents were teachers.
We're teachers.
I was like, I'm not doing this. My parents are doing this. Like, I'm going to do something totally different. You know, we always think we know better than our parents. Never true. Okay. And so I realized, you know what? I'm going to get into elementary education. And I make that choice my sophomore year. So everything changed for me. Academic advisor sets it up and I'm going. I get into my junior year and I have a meeting with my academic advisor. And because that last year of being an elementary teacher, I'd have to been a real elementary teacher on campus, at an actual school campus. I'm not able to do so because it would have pushed me to be doing another year of the NCAA. And they're like, look, we're not going to pay for that because this girl, she's obviously going to finish on time. Like, we're not paying for that extra year. So you need to change her major. And so I'm almost finished with my elementary education stuff. And I have to switch out of it to just health and kinesiology. But I ended up still getting alternative certification afterwards. I was a behavior interventionist while I was doing my alt cert at Waco ISD. And then at Midway ISD is when I started in 2018, 2019, officially starting my coaching and teaching career.
And you've been doing it for 3 years, right?
So this is actually now going into my 6th year.
Oh, 6 years.
I was at Midway for 3 years, Waco that 1 year. I was in Dallas this past year. Then I came back home to Shoemaker High School this year.
So are you is your parents at your high school?
Yes. So actually my mom is a counselor at my high school. My dad, he just started being an assistant principal last year. And so he's at Liberty Hill Middle School, which is one of the middle schools. They don't feed directly into us, but they're not too far away from us. So we're all in KISD though.
Wow.
Yes.
Just going one more question about your throwing career. Did you ever think about throwing professionally or maybe do one more meet after you got through your eligibility?
Oh, absolutely. I did. So my time at Midway was the time that I was pursuing throwing not collegiately, but professionally.
Okay.
So like I told you guys, Jeff, Coach Shaq is what I call him because he's going to kill me if I mess up his last name, which I think I did. But Coach Shaq, he recruited me from UCF. And then he got the job at Baylor the year after I graduated because I like to tell people, yes, sir, 2019. I like to tell people Danny Brabham left after he got his first Big 12 champion. He was like, I did my job and I'm out. So I think I concluded his coaching career. I'm confident enough to say that.
Talk to Danny? What's he doing?
Oh, so he still talks to me. So when I was at Midway, he actually came up there to see me. At Shoemaker, we talk all the time. Like he just saw that I did well with my volleyball girls. And so we message back and forth on Facebook a lot. He is living his best life as a grandfather, as a husband. I mean, he's getting to go to all of his, grandchildren's events without having to worry about anything collegiately, anything that he's doing. Because one thing that he told me, and he even told me this when I was at Midway, he said, Silver, family comes first. And let me tell you, that man, if he had an event with those kids, he'd be like, you know what to do. And he would go off and make sure he was with and he was present at his children's event or his grandchildren's event. So now he's retired, living his best life, playing golf, loving on his wife. So I'm so happy to see that. I'm so happy to see that. He's right outside of Waco, like 2 towns outside of Waco.
Okay. Yeah, we were just hearing and stuff like that. So you getting back, so you tried to do that, pursue professional for your first year at Midway.
Yes, sir. It was my first 2 years there. Coach Shaq actually was my coach. He was taking care of me. He was coaching me through that time. And I had to choose between shot put and discus. And I first was starting off in shot put. It was too much on my knees, to be completely honest. So I was like, I'm getting a little old here. My cartilage is this much left here, And so I ended up doing discus. And I mean, he was an amazing coach. He was coaching me like he knew exactly. I mean, he watched me compete against his kids. He saw me compete against out of high school. So he knew exactly what I needed to adjust and change. And I actually was gunning for trials 2020. And when COVID hit, I was like, okay, look, kid. And I had an opportunity to move up as a varsity assistant that next year. And so I just had to make the choice. I was like, either I keep competing and having to, do my 4 a.m. wake ups and get my workout in before I work out the kids, get home at 9, or I, end up just going all the way and understand that the return from coaching is just as great as me being on the stage as well. And I mean, it was a decision I had to talk to God about, because I was like, dang, there's so much. I know I can do really well in this thing. I really do. And the numbers that I was doing, putting out, I was able to train with the Baylor athletes there. They were making me better. I was able to make them better. But it was just when COVID hit, and not to blame COVID, but just that stop of everything, knowing that it would have been another year, I was like, yeah, nope, we're going to go ahead and call it quits. We're going to put it down and just move forward and move on. And I do not regret it, because, again, seeing how the athletes are able to learn from you and see how they're able to produce, that gives you just as much joy, just like you're out there, so.
Yeah. Do you still keep up with what's going on with throwing in the world, and do you still talk with Valerie or keep up with her, or Haley just retired from being a professional thrower? I don't know if you know that, but yeah, do you
right.
still keep up with him?
So no, I don't necessarily keep up in the vein of like talking to them, but from watching from afar, absolutely. I mean, my sister is now in the spot that I was in, so she sends me articles. I'll send her articles. Chase Ely turned into a rotator. Y'all saw that? She was gliding all through Oklahoma State, and then next thing you know, she's rotated and taking names. You have Jessica Woodard, who's doing amazing throwing as well. I threw against her. So I definitely keep up with them social media wise, looking at meets, paying attention that way, but not necessarily personally. I also, with making the decision of stopping to throw, there was still some pain in that, within itself, like, this was my love and this was my thing. And, being competitive was a big part as well.
So is that why you haven't coached throwing it at any of your stops?
So I actually did, sir. So at Midway, I was the throws coach. I was the throws coach at Midway.
For
I
1 or 2 years.
I was there for 3 years.
Okay, so
I was the coach for 3 years for just the ladies. I would help out with the guys as well, but I had a young lady who never made it past area, I believe, and we ended up going to regionals. And she started off throwing like 108, maybe 109, and I got that joker to about 125, almost 130 within just I think it was 1, 2, 3 years, which was pretty neat. She had opportunity to continue to throw. She was extremely brainy though, so she went academics. I mean, she could go throw on the side if she wanted to, but that was her big thing. I had a couple throwers that were, of course, under 30, and I got one young lady to 35. She, I don't think she threw her senior year. She was one of my basketball players. Lived like 6'2", wingspan. It was crazy. I said, oh yeah, we're gonna throw.
Yeah.
We're gonna get in there. I don't know what you think you're gonna do, but we're gonna pick up that shot put and discus. And so I definitely had some successes there. I'm definitely looking forward to these throwers at Shoemaker, because I'm telling you, I don't know. It's just something about being at your alma mater. When you feel like you were the best and you came from this school, you feel like the school is the best. So now that these young ladies, they're at Shoemaker and it's where I came from, oh yeah, we're gonna be the best. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna get it done.
You're gonna coach throws at Shoemaker this year?
Yes, sir.
Oh, boys and girls?
So the way that it's set up is also separated with boys and girls, but I'm super close with the male coach. He's the type to be like, come here, tell me what you see. Go ahead and coach them up, whatever you see, And so my thing is, I want us to be as successful as we can. So I'm already combing the halls. I'm a PE coach, so I'm looking at my PE classes like, what do you do? Yep. Have you ever heard of Shot Put and Discus? Like, I'm pulling them in, yes. Because the blessed thing at Midway was I had y'all just about 20 girls out there wanting to throw Shot Put and Discus. Now that sounds great and all, but when you're coaching, it is so tough. Yeah. You got 2 rings, you got 2 discus, 2 shot put rings. So it was hard in that vein, but generally it was awesome because I was like, look at all these girls want to show interest in shot put and discus. You know what I mean? I'm able to tell my story. They're able to go to Baylor and see my little posters up in there. And I'm like, hey, I've done this. I've done this before, and I've had to learn to kind of talk about myself, because I'm the type where it was hard for me to kind of brag on what I did. You know what I mean? I'm wearing my ring, but it took me a while. It took me seeing one of my teammates wearing his ring all the time to realize, okay, yeah, I'll wear my ring too. Like, you know, because that's something that you did. That's something that's positive. And what I realized, the main reason is that inspires somebody. When Danny Brabham came in my home and had that ring on, I'm sitting there eyeing his little ring like, whoa, what is that? And that just opens the door for somebody. You don't know what that'll take. Because again, I was a basketball girl. I had Texas A&M looking at me. LSU wanted to offer me a dual. Alabama wanted to offer me a dual. Absolutely not doing two sports in college, but that was a blessing to be able to have that on the table. And you just don't know who doesn't know about throwing and sees what kind of successes you have and how that busts the door wide open. So I've learned to kind of talk about myself and knowing that it's not being braggadocious, but being grateful about the gift that you're given.
And sharing, you're sharing that gift. Somebody shared it with you and gave it to you. You just got to pass it down.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
What are you teaching?
So right now I'm teaching PE and I love it. It is butter.
Awesome.
Yes. You know, they always say it's hard to come by a PE job. Said, not with the Lord on my side. 27, I got me a PE job and opened right on up. And so I'm doing that. I'm also certified though in health and in SPED. So I can go either way with that. I love teaching both of those. And yeah, just that Shoemaker, I'm just teaching it. I'm just doing PE and I'm coaching volleyball, and then I'll be picking up track later on. I'll probably help out with basketball because I love basketball.
That's awesome.
I love basketball.
I'm in my 27th year of teaching and coaching, and I love to see your passion and that there's someone out there that loves PE, because I got out of it as quick as I could. But yes, and that you are loving our kids. Is Jerry Edwards still the head football coach there? Coach Edwards?
A Shoemaker?
Yeah.
No, ma'am. It is now Toby Foreman.
Okay. All right. I was saying, what did you work with Jeff Hume at Waco Midway?
Yes, I did. Coach Hume. Absolutely.
I coached with Coach Hume at Mansfield High when he was, so he's back in Mansfield now, but he was at Mansfield High when I was there, and his daughter Sydney was in middle school, I think, at the time. So yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome. He was super sweet. And again, it's cool to work at a school where the head coach, the football coach, knows your name and says what's up and talks to you. You know, they're not so disconnected. So he's awesome. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
That's awesome. He hates it. He hates it when I make connections. And then I watched her throw her senior year at Waco Midway. It was in the area meet. It was freezing cold.
Yes.
Your senior year was my daughter's junior year. It was extremely cold, and she was very nice out there with all the throwers. And I remember going to the meet. My daughter was, I don't remember what she placed, second or third behind you, but I remember saying, you're not going to get first. Just show up and do the best you can because Miss Hicks was going to win.
You know, it's crazy though, because a lot of people used to say that when I was at Shoemaker High School. They used to call me when I go to the meets the Bell County Beast, and I didn't realize that until like as we got older and some of the throwers would say that. It was like, yeah, we knew when you came, it was just a rap. And in my head, I'm sitting there like, no, guys, still try. Like, I'm going to try to take it. Don't ever get it twisted, but come on. So that's pretty cool. That's definitely a blessing for sure.
Final question. I'm curious what you're going to say to this. Is there any, what would graduate from Baylor Cion advice give thrower Cion her freshman, sophomore year of high school? Is there any advice you would give yourself looking back at your high school career and what you learned from Baylor?
So let me just tell you real quick. So it's Cion. I know it's hard. It's all good. I got you.
You pronounced it wrong when we introduced you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, totally fine. It's fine. It's cool. But so what I would give, so you're saying what my Baylor self would give my high school self?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'd probably give my high school self, get serious about throwing your freshman year and get into a track club your freshman year. I would probably say tighten up the way you eat. Make sure you're eating all your vegetables and your fruits. Our parents never let us eat anything too crazy, but you know, when you're a high school kid, they're not going to deny you, you know, eating your little fast food or hanging out with your friends and lunch, eating crazy stuff. But I definitely tell my high school self to tighten up, you know, my nutrition. And then I would tell myself, for sure, focus on the mental side of throwing as well. Focus on the mental side of athletics. I was so focused on just the physical side of, you know, if I felt good, then I knew I was going to throw well. I wasn't necessarily focused on how the mind plays a part, you know, preparation from before the meet, during the meet, and even how you reflect after the meet as well, what that looks like as an athlete. So I would tell myself that. And then I think the last thing I'd probably tell myself is, I know I had fun, so I can't tell myself that. I'd probably just tell myself, do some research, get a little bit more, you know, get a little bit more interested in this thing. You know, again, I was just doing it as a backup to basketball, not knowing that it'd be as, you know, prominent in my life as it was. But I just told myself, do a little bit more research for sure. Get into it a little bit more, and then, you know, just see how it goes from there.
Yeah. All right. I got
that.
all right. I just thought of another question.
Because
Because I got her on, because you're coaching now, you know, and,
Yes,
and
sir.
your foundation of being an athlete is track and field. You know, part of why we do this is to grow the popularity of track and field, especially throwing
Yes.
in the state of Texas. And I have a great passion for the throwing in the state of Texas and growing that, but also the side of growing hammer as well, because I feel the more implements we are proficient at, the better we can be to be a better recruit. I'm curious, as a coach, what would you like to see in track and field to increase the popularity of it in the state of Texas?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I would say advertising. Okay, so if I'm thinking about increasing popularity, I would have to think of how our kids touch nowadays. And I go back to social media. And not a negative thing. We just have to use it in a positive way, if that makes sense. And so I know it definitely starts in middle school. I can't necessarily reach the kids, say, prior to that, only if, you know, your dad threw, or you have somebody that's throwing in college or whatever the case, you might know about throwing, but, you know, in elementary school. But if we could get the popularity or get the idea of what track and field is to those middle school students, oh, it's going to boom from there, because now you're taking the athletes that may not be good in your basketball and your volleyball and your tennis. Now they can compete in how far how long can you run? How fast can you run? How high can you jump? How far can you jump? How far can you throw? And I make it very plain to when I'm talking to athletes, especially like the freshmen that are coming out of middle school. I said, do you know that I went to college for free? They paid me to throw something as far as I could, just to throw, you know? And these kids don't understand and don't know that track and field has such an array of different technicalities that you may not be good at dribbling the basketball, but you might be amazing at sprinting up the court and getting a fast break. Well, go to track and field. You know what I mean? You may be the inbound person and you can throw the football, you know, throw like a football pass all the way down 94 feet. Well, let's go throw some discus. You never know how that turns out. And you may not be a Division I basketball, Division II soccer, but you might be a Division I track. You might be a Division II, a JUCO. You just never know. So I think getting athletes that are in high school that know track and field and getting them to advertise it to those middle school kids. So now you're having way more middle schoolers coming into high school, and now you're having the kid that's super quick that was just going to be in PE. Now they're running track and field. I think that's definitely important for sure.
Yeah. I'll add one thing to that is to give throwers more throws. I don't know if you high school, but like it irks me that they only get 3 throws, you know, sometimes maybe 4 throws, and they never get prelims and a final until we get to the district meet. And if you're being recruited, if you think about it, if you're being recruited and you have only 8 meets that you can do legally before your district meet, you only might have got 24 throws, 26 throws to even get the marks to even be recruited. And then when you get into district, you're not prepared for 6 throws because
you're tired.
Yes.
Right. You're worn out.
And it's a different mindset of, okay, I got to get into finals, and how do I handle getting into finals? So what I would like to see is, hopefully if y'all do meets, I would really encourage you to do this, is give your kids, top six places and top 6 throw finals, and give them 6 throws or something like that. It don't take that much longer, so why not let them do it? So
that's a very good point. And being a high school coach of throwers, that was hard for me to get my mind back to, like, realizing, like, dang, okay, you only got 3 throws. So, or they're giving you that 4, you can take 2, take one. I'm like, oh, this is ugly. I forgot about this. When you're throwing collegiately so long, you're used to having prelims and finals. And even how I would train my girls, I would train them in the way of understanding there's going to be a prelim and there's going to be a final. And so we'd have to kind of train in a way where you have to get your 3 throws or your 4 throws need to be the best 4 throws you're going to have of the day, because you're not going to get anything else. But that is a very good point. And I'm definitely going to try to make that happen for sure at the high school level, because I didn't even think of it like that in terms of saying that it takes away. You could have your PR in that 6th throw or that, 5th throw that you have, and you would never even know. You'd never know.
And that's the reason we have a summer club, and the one thing that about our summer program and what we're seeing in summer track is, and I don't know what like it when you were coming up, but we're pushing 6 throws. So they come to these meets, and if they're going to stand out in the heat all day, we're going to give them 6 throws. And at least they have an opportunity to get the maximum throws, hopefully get that PR, especially if they're 17, 18, to possibly say, hey, I'm going to write an email. Hey, I threw 150 feet at my summer track meet last week or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's me personally, that's how we grow the sport, because you're going to get 16 games in football with 4 quarters. You're not going to cut off the plays. You're going to get 4 periods in basketball tournament.
Right.
Let's give these kids, chances to throw. And even,
we get out there. I mean, did summer track, and there's so many other coaches like, no, we just need to get out here quick. Let's just get 3 and be done. It's hot. These kids are hot. They've been out here in the heat. Well, you chose to live in Texas and do track. Like, it's hot.
Hello.
Prepare them for the heat. Teach them this.
Yes.
Like, no, we're going to do, we'll do 4 maybe. Even the young one, I get it, I guess, with the young ones with 3, and sometimes we can get them to do 4, but you're doing the kids a service. They're going to be fine if you prepare them for the heat, and they need those reps.
Yeah.
That's true. And it places a level of importance on what you're doing. You know what I mean? If you're working extremely hard in practice to be able to perform, and then you get out there and the workers are like, we're just going to do 3 and move forward. Just so we can say you do it. It's like, well, what was the point of me going out here and working so hard? What was that point? What was the purpose? So that is an amazing point. I'm definitely going to be pushing that for sure. For sure. I got y'all.
Well, cool. What amazing spirit. I've heard great things about you. I've been trying to get you on for a long time, through social media and stuff.
Yes,
and
sir.
You got the date wrong last week.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, I was like, oh no. I said, wait a minute.
The Zoom had the right date. My calendar had the right date. I didn't look at either of those. I just went based on his word. He's like, we have a podcast today. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't bother to pick up all the places I'd written it down.
And our communication sheet said it was wrong. It was her fault. It was the first time in our marriage that I made a mistake.
You know that pride thing we talked about earlier?
Yes, I see it. Little monster coming right on out.
You're back where you earned your street cred a little bit.
Yes, sir.
You're giving back to your community and stuff. That is awesome. Basically, 30 minutes south of where you grew up, in the heart where you turned yourself into a great collegiate athlete as well. So Baylor's very fortunate to have you, and Killeen ISD is very fortunate to have you as well. So.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on this show. It's awesome. It's amazing. I'll definitely be pubbing it on my social media, giving it to my family for sure. So I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Bye-bye.
what a tremendous story, person,
Yeah.
spirit,
Personality.
Personality.
All the things.
Cion, I got it right.
Cion.
I apologize for butchering your name. I just love the fact that, you know, she was a multi-sport athlete, and, you know, her athletic ability kind of came about with her throwing potential, and that kind of steered her in the path to go out and be successful. That carried her to college. I like the fact too that, you know, especially that she's giving back to where her roots are from. Yeah. And you know, there's no ego into it or anything like that. I like the fact that she's very open about, you know, that she didn't have success at the national meets. She threw very far, and there was meets where she did throw, you know, a PR. I think she threw 187 the discus and right at 50, right under 58 in the shot put. So she was definitely one of the powerhouse collegiately as well. And to turn around and say, okay, I'm going to go teach and coach and give back to the community and stuff. And I'm excited to see what she does with her high school athletes, because that's very rare that even high school we have the throwers, and that she's a former thrower.
Yeah. Well, she's going to go find them on the basketball court and doing something else and say, hey, no, this is not where you're going to be gifted. You may be a good basketball player, but let's go do this.
Yeah.
And out of all things she said, probably one of the favorite, you do the recruiting but the mental side, how she looked at every piece. Why am I not throwing well? I eat right. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. There's got to be something missing. And like you said, kind of humbling herself to being like, all right, I need help with that mental aspect, because that's a hard part of sports. Now today, there are a lot of sports psychologists out there. I think we probably understand it a little bit more than she was throwing, but it's huge.
Yeah, and then to take the initiative as a youth and do the recruiting email, and to do it like she did, where she talked about her academics first, and then she talked about her throwing her PRs and stuff, and then she tied it in why she wanted to go to that school. Just genius.
Yeah.
And because I'm going through the process now, recruiting, and you know, we're getting a lot of attention with that, and we've replaced a lot of kids through the program and stuff. But I can honestly say too, we probably not sent as many emails as we should have, and made it that personal. And I think that would create more headway get a lot more return on our investment for sure.
Personal and professional.
Yeah.
Because you're going on a job interview. It's a job interview. And you wouldn't text someone on Twitter for on a job
that's
interview.
very true.
You would send an email. So
yeah. So all right. Well, we'll see y'all down the road, Baylor Bears. Sick 'em.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. We want to thank our sponsors, Texas Track and Field Coach Association, ttfca.org. All the meets are being posted. Everything track and field. We say that all the time because that's really what it is in the state of Texas. Fourthrows.com. Get your quality implements priced right. Go to fourthrows.com. Porta-Circle.com. Winter is coming, or fallish, or whatever we have here in Texas.
So like for the 2023 TTFCA Winter Clinic, so like,
two people we're talking.
Yeah, Steven Sines is going to be talking shot put.
Podcast.
Yes, Bo Schneck-Snyder, a famous strength and conditioning coach from LSU. And my guy, I love. I don't even know if this is official yet.
But we're saying it. It's on the website.
Yeah, Mr. Adam Setliff is going to talk about the discus. So if you don't have anything to do,
even if you do, change your schedule.
Yes, you need to be in Grapevine, Texas on January the 6th and 7th to listen to this man talk about discus, because it will blow your mind.
Yeah. Back to Ready Up. If you're in the Austin area, go to readyupad.com and check out what Zach Phillip has going on.
Hello, Talk and Throws Texas podcasters. I'm Bruce Caldwell. I'm here today to introduce the Fiber Sport Discus. Yes, many of you thought I only made great vaulting poles. I have been bringing quality discuses to the throwers' hands for over 40 years. First as Cantabrian USA representative, then for the past 10 years as the Nelco discus distributor. I introduced the yellow plated discus for the plastic's best durability. If your Fiber Sport discus breaks, we replace it. Our studies have reached into the science of using a wind tunnel and adding microchips to the discus to find the spin, the gravity, the flight stability of the discus. We have found it's not about rim weight anymore. It's more about creating a balanced stability to allow the discus to fly and surf the wind. Our new FiberSport discus is made to be selected to fit your needs, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions. Check out our discus selection guide at fibersportdiscus.com and find a dealer in your area that sells our fine product. Thank you, Jason and Janelle, for allowing me to talk with your listeners on Talk and Throws Texas Style.
And then go to the Throwing Factory. You know, we do lessons. I love, you know, it says I coach the little ones, and I do. I love, you know, 8 years old, you can start throwing that. Well, actually, at what, 7?
Mm-hmm.
You can start throwing the shot put, do some javelin. If your kid needs something to do right now because they don't have a sport they're in, they're not in football, whatever, or even if they are, reach out to us. I would love to just see if it's something they can do. Well, I'll put it this way, I know it's something they can do. If it's something that they would enjoy doing. It's just another avenue to, you know, go out there and be an amazing athlete. And we got all of our coaches doing their thing, so check out all that. And then
go to the website to find their contact information and stuff too. So yeah.
Me
One thing
too.
too is I want to add is there's a lot of people like to do. We do online stuff as well, and we talked about the technical aspect of throwing, and we coach that as well. But we also are there at the meets, and we walk the kids through the mental approach, you know, from hands-on. So that's what's a little bit different than maybe some other clubs or coaches do their thing. We're there in the trenches with those throwers and living with every throw. So if you're a kid that needs that and you're a parent that wants that for your kid, reach out to us because we can help you for that.
113 degrees in Houston with humidity. We're there.
Yes.
Loving on your kid, bringing them water.
For sure. Yes, and lifting DFW Human Performance. Go to that website, liftingdfw.com. The mobile fitness station, the commercial is going to be posted pretty soon. We're going to be manufacturing, sell them in 2023. If you're looking for a game changer, whether you're select soccer, lifting, college, whatever, you don't have a weight room, this thing can meet all your needs.
Awesome.
See you.
Great one.
Check it out.